So my name is Chaz Horn. I've been in sales for 30 years. My company is Mastery of B2B Sales. And as Stephanie said, that's what I do. I work with B2B sales, generally small, medium-sized businesses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my journey from where I started from to where I am today, what I've learned in the process. And then I want to, for you, to see as the prospect, their viewpoint, because how many people have ever lied to a salesperson? How many people are lying to me now? Okay, right? Why do we lie to salespeople? Right. Well, make them go away. I mean, if you go into a retail store, someone comes up to you and says, "Can I help you?" And you're there to buy something. What do you generally say?
No, thank you. I'm fine. I'm just looking.
Yeah. Imagine if she or he came up to you and said, "I know you're probably just looking, but my name is Stephanie, my name is Bob. Tell you what, there's some specials or some things that we have going on right here. If I can help you in any way, please let me know." You know, it's just a reframing the conversation so you're not, people's walls are up. So it's all about bringing people's walls down. So we're going to talk about that today. And as soon as we get this hooked up, and then we'll get going. But, well, let me just tell you, 30 years ago when I got into sales, my first B2B business sales job that I had, I was terrible. I mean, I totally sucked, just to be blunt with you. We had 119 salespeople. I was 119th out of 119th salespeople. I was homeless. I was living in my car at the time. And my boss, soon-to-be mentor, Ken Upton, he pulled me into his office. He said, "Chaz," he goes, "Are you sick and tired?" I go, "Sick and tired?" "Yeah, are you sick and tired yet?" I'm like, "Okay, Ken, help me understand. Are you sick and tired of not getting any sales?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you could become the number one salesperson. I want you to come over to dinner tonight." I didn't have any food, and so I said, "Great, I have a meal for the evening." And so he brought me over, we had dinner, he pulled me aside into his den, and I could still see the chair of me sitting there with Ken, and he said, "Chaz, you could be the number one salesperson in the company in the next 30 days. He says, "But you got to follow the process." And I started to push back. I go, "Ken, I'm doing everything." And he goes, "You're doing everything?" I said, "Well, I'm doing like thousands of things, really thousands of things. What are those things?" Well, when it came down to it, I was doing two things, and I kept doing them, and they weren't working. There's a lot of things that were in play that I didn't do. So long story short, I started to follow the process, and I started to get results. My confidence started to build, and first I got an appointment, got another appointment, got a sale, got another sale. At the end of 30 days, I wasn't the top salesperson in the company, but I was in the top 3%. So from 119th to number 7, quite an advancement, just following the process. So today, process is important, but there's much more than just a process to have in place to be successful. We have to look at the prospect, their viewpoint, because they have their walls up. And they have their walls up because why? Because everybody's trying to sell them. And so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about setting the groundwork, the foundation, so that they want to buy from us. You know, I mean, would you rather do that, have a conversation where they want to buy, or try to sell something? People don't want to be sold anymore. They're too educated. They know too much about. They usually have more information about who we are than many salespeople have about them. Unfortunately, because of many salespeople, and I'm talking about business owners. Most of who I work with are business owners. They have sales staff, some companies, and some don't. Are we?
Well, so you don't have an HDMI connector, so I'm trying to figure out how to get to the computer.
Is yours available on the web? Did you email it to yourself? Do you have it on USB or anything like that that's portable?
What's that?
A thumb drive?
No, I don't. It's because I was going to go through.
But it's saying computer in, but I think it's, I'm going to call it.
Put it on a zip drive and put it in there.
I'm going through LinkedIn and different things, and so I'm just going from websites.
Okay, I'll have to call the people, I guess. I thought.
Okay. Well, one of the things I tell my clients is that if you don't know and understand you're involved in a war, you're going to lose the battles. And this is a perfect example. So, life happens and you need to be willing to adapt and change. And so we'll do whatever we need to do. It's unfortunate if we can't get this up here. But so what I want to do first and foremost is
Don't worry about me.
okay, well, it's kind of it's a little distracting. So, so let me start from the beginning. I had a paradigm shift several years ago, so much so that this paradigm shift changed how I did sales and how I teach my clients sales, and that has to do with going, and by the way, 90% of any sales trainers, sales coaches, they totally miss this. You're not going to see this in books most of the time, and it's all about having an intention, having the intention to serve. And let me just ask you, would you rather have the intention to serve someone, or would you want to try to sell somebody something? You see the difference? Serving as opposed to selling. When you go with the intention to serve, by the way, serving doesn't mean that we're a wimp, okay? If you want to serve somebody, sometimes you have to go down deep and uncover that deep-rooted problem that they have. Because many times people do today what they did yesterday, and they'll repeat it tomorrow, many times expecting different results. We all know that's a definition of insanity. But they don't understand how it's affecting them personally, and we're all very good as humans of blocking that out. And so as a salesperson, as a business, it's our job to uncover those deep-rooted problems. And during the process, there should be an aha moment, not only for them, but for us. The deep-rooted moment has to do with the problem, pain. It's a kind of a cliche word. I don't like to use that so much. And how it's affecting them, or the business, but more importantly, how it's affecting them personally. And so an example of serving somebody, let's just take Jim for example. I talked with him a couple weeks ago. He reached out to me and he said, Chaz, he said, first words out of his mouth when we started the conversation, I just want to let you know that we really don't have a budget, or if we do, it's a shoestring budget. And I said, why are we talking, Jim? And it wasn't to be demeaning or belittling. And this goes into, I heard someone talking about mindset earlier. This goes into mindset too, but he had come to the conversation based on all budget. And so when I asked him that question, there was an awkward silence. By the way, there's a study done. Salespeople fill in that awkward silence within 2 seconds. And so if there's an awkward silence, it's a golden opportunity to really dig up those golden nuggets. But if you fill in the silence, you're going to miss out. Because the key is to listen. And as Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand and then be understood. But to be able to understand, we need to listen, ask good open-ended questions. And so when I asked Jim, I said, Jim, why are we on the call? And awkward silence. As we drilled down into the conversation, what happened is that Jim, he was a partner, they'd gone from 20 million to 7 million in 5 years, okay, going the wrong direction. They decimated their sales training. They pretty much took out a lot of their marketing. And so he had the aha moment, I had the aha moment, and from that point forward, the conversation wasn't about budget. It was about what it was costing him. So do you see what I'm understand what I'm saying when I'm saying about serving them? Okay. So I'm serving him by asking him a difficult question, because if I don't address that up front, that elephant in the room, then it's going to come back to bite me. By the way, most salespeople, business owners, if you're in sales, that's kind of awkward. They brought that up, and how can I get around this? It's going to come back to bite you. So you have to address the elephants in the room. So if you don't uncover that, it's going to be a problem. If you address that, and a lot of times what most people miss out on is they have an inner voice that's telling them to say something, and they push it down, and because they push it down, they're missing out on an opportunity for a good conversation, okay? This is only going to give us really half of what we need. Okay. And let me just think of something real quick here. Google Docs, I can get in there. Okay. So I'll have to do it without the visuals. So anyway, so let's just get back. So 4 things are essential for you to be effective in sales, okay? And I use the acronym TABS, okay? T-A-B-S. T is about technique. And by the way, technique is not about manipulation. Technique is about guiding and directing the process, because you are the authority, you're equals in the conversation. And when I say equals, a lot of people come to a conversation, and my mom went to finishing school. Real etiquette was real big in our family. And so when I was going to in a conversation, it's, oh, thank you so much for meeting me, because that was the polite and right thing to say. But we have to come to the conversation as equals, okay? Yes, we're equals, whether they're a CEO, business owner, doesn't matter. We're equals, but yet we're the authority. So with the right technique, you can guide and direct the conversation. You know, we talked about Jim there, and using a technique, we had to do a lot with mindset and just pattern interrupts, okay? Me asking Jim that question is really common sense, but it's also a pattern interrupt. Another technique has to do with what I call the 3X formula. If you ask a good open-ended question, typically they're going to respond with a surface level answer. And so the 3X formula is this. You ask up to 3 questions to drill down on their answer, to find out the core issue of the problem, and this is where you get those aha moments. You know, you ask a question, like one of the questions I ask people, it's like, well, let's start probably the most obvious question. What's not working in your business? Well, let's see. We're struggling with getting leads in. I said, okay, you know, tell me a little bit more about that. Well, you know, last week we didn't get any. Last month we only had 5. Okay, well, tell me about the process that you're going through. And so they tell me that. And as I'm drilling down, I want to find out how it's affecting the business, but more importantly, how it's affecting them personally, okay? So when you tie that to the business, to them, a lot of times people will get to the business problem and they don't tie it into them personally. And a good example of this is Brian, a technology company here in town. I was talking to him about the problem, and he kept going around and around and around. I said, Brian, and his partner was here. I said, Brian, okay, you're not having these leads coming in. And I said, how is that affecting you directly? He goes, well, and his partner chimed in. He said, Brian, you're a total jerk when it comes to payroll time, because you don't know what sales are coming in and what not. He didn't have a predictable process. And he's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. He had that aha moment. From there, we had a conversation that made sense, and so I was able to bring him on as a client and work through the process. So when you go through the process, we're talking about technique. Not only are you going to uncover things, but they're also going to start to lower their wall, okay? A is attitude. Remember, the acronym is TABS, T-A-B-S. And so A is attitude, but we really use the word mindset, but M doesn't fit into my acronym, okay? Because it's about keeping tabs on you, your performance, and where you're going. By the way, if you have a problem in your business, it's going to be because of one or more of these 4 areas within sales and marketing. If you're not getting leads, if you're not closing the sale, if you're not getting the next step in the process, it's going to be one or more of these 4 areas. By the way, and if you know and understand these, when you apply this, you can get to the bottom of the problem within minutes. You know, many companies spend so much time trying to figure out what's the problem, where is it, hiring companies to come in, consulting. Once you know and understand this, you can do it. And plus, whether you're the salesperson or you have a sales staff, they can be self-aware and identify where the problem is, okay? So mindset, and let me give you an example of Fritz. Well, let me go back to technique. Another technique is Have you ever had an appointment with somebody? How many business owners are in here right now? So I see. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. And what type of businesses do you have?
Remodeling, so business to customer.
Okay, cool.
Office center, so we provide space and services.
Okay.
I represent children as an attorney and I own a social service agency.
Okay, awesome.
A retail shop,
Retail shop?
patent law firm.
Okay.
We provide B2B business payment solutions.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I appreciate that. So, this is going to all apply to B2C and B2B businesses, okay? And LinkedIn, people think, well, LinkedIn's only B2B. Not so. There's many B2C businesses. There's a little bit different strategy, and we'll address that as we go through here. But one of my clients, with one of the techniques, if you talk to somebody, and let's just say you have a good conversation. You ever had this? Oh, wow, they're really interested. And they say, well, you know what? Why don't you get back to me next Monday morning? I say, okay, good. You call back Monday morning, what typically happens? You get a voicemail, you send an email, you send a text, you could do all sorts of different things. That's in the chase mode. And so to eliminate that, you have to end each and every conversation with a clear next step. A clear next step, first of all, they have to have skin in the game. This is, you cannot allow them to direct the process, the conversation. And so to get a clear next step, this is how I define it. It's, you know who's doing what when. You should probably have something that's going on. They have something that has to be done. And you have a time and a date, and it's in each other's calendar. Okay? It has to be in each other's calendar before you end that conversation. And so Erica, who came on board as a client, she goes, Chaz, I've had these clients that are just driving me nuts. Well, they're her prospects, prospective clients. She goes, 6 months, 8 months. And I said, well, tell me about the conversation. And it was typically, she was in the chase mode. She was chasing them. They weren't responding. And so she was taking it personally. And so I said, okay, here's something that you can do. We use a video platform, by the way, for scheduling all our appointments called Vaetas, V-A-E-T-A-S. Very useful tool. I said, do this, say this, and let's see if we can get something moving. But when you end a conversation, you need to make sure that you have the decision makers in the process and you have a clear next step. And so she goes, okay, I'm going to do this. And so her technique, as far as, being able to say things smoothly and whatnot wasn't there, but her mindset made her want to do it because her why was strong enough for her to do what needed to be done. So she was able to, one client that was, prospective client that was dragging on for 8 months, she was able to get it to the next step with the decision makers, and then bring them on, okay? So techniques are the small little things that really help you take people through the process to the next step. So 3X formula, clear next step, those two things, by the way, clear next step, if you do that, that's going to reduce your sales cycle immensely. By the way, it's good to have within a meeting of a company, an organization. How many times have you had a meeting and you go through the meeting and then you end and then nothing really gets done, and then you have a meeting to discuss the meeting and it goes on and on and on? Make sure people know what's going on. You have a clear date, things to be done, and so they follow up, all right? So technique, attitude, mindset. Mindset is driven by your why, okay? There's a lot of things you could do with mindset, but you've got to know and understand your why. Simon Sinek wrote a book about this, if you know who that is. Your why is going to drive you. And when I work with my clients, one of the first things I take them through is a sales mission statement. It's who they work with, what the outcomes they get, who they don't work with, okay? Because many people chase after people who aren't a good fit, but in their mind, I know this is going to be a good fit. I know they have this problem. And so they're projecting on them, and you can't project on people. You have to find out their needs. So they spend so much time wasting, calling, their sales staff calling them. So with your mindset, who you work with, who you don't work with, where the people are without you, okay, I call it the hell they're in, all right? The problems they have, you should know within your business what are the top 3 problems that people that you face, okay? What are they? You should be able to list those off. And how are they affecting them? So the hell they're in, they have these problems, and without me, it's affecting them in this way. And when you get down deep, it affects their business, it affects them personally. It's very powerful. And this helps as you create this with your reticular activating system. How many people know what that's for in your brain? Anybody ever have a new car? And then after you get the new car, everyone else is driving that new car, or you see a lot of people? That's the reticular activating system. If I said, in this room, search for everything that's brown. Search for brown, brown. Look at all the things that are brown. Now, if I tell you, okay, now tell me what's red. Are you going to see more brown or more red? It's because you're hearing me ask for brown, ask for brown, ask for brown. So the reticular activating system, what you put into your brain on a consistent basis is going to play out, and that's what you're going to think about. So who you work with, or where they are without you, the hell, where they are with you, the heaven, okay? And now it's like they're working with you because of that, they have X, Y, and Z. It's affecting their business, it's affecting them personally. Obviously, you have an onboarding process, whether it's remodeling or patent or B2B business services or payment solutions. There's a process to onboard those, okay? Then we go to the why, okay? And this is where business people many times have a struggle. Well, I'm in this because I want to fit this need in the marketplace. Great. Why do you want to fit that need in the marketplace? Oh, because why did you start a business? Why are you working for the business? Why are you running the business? When you get down to it, for instance, I was working with one person, Chris, about after 10 minutes in the conversation, he said, you know what, Chaz? And his daughter was on the phone. He's getting kind of choked up. He goes, I have probably about 10, 15 more years. And if my business isn't in a place where I can hand it to my daughter, I'm really concerned for her well-being. There were some things that happened earlier in his life, and because of that, he wanted to take care of his daughter and make sure that she was taken care of. And so that why drives us. And that why, understanding your why, is going to help you have a good mindset. Now, anybody heard of Mel Robbins? Not related to Tony Robbins by chance. 5-second rule? Okay. So she wrote a book, 5-second rule, and I can tell you about it in the next couple of minutes without having to read the book. So basically, it's great, but it's the 5-second rule. It's not dropping food on the floor, okay? And within 5 seconds, you eat it. I know. So Mel Robbins' whole thing was she was in a dark period, and she, was snoozing. She was in a place of depression and whatnot, and so she went to sleep, and there was a rocket blasting off when she was going to sleep, and so in her mind, she's like, she's going to be like a rocket out of bed when that alarm goes off, and she counted down like the rocket, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so in a nutshell, what the 5-second rule is this. We, during the course of the day, are going to have those needle-moving ideas that are going to propel us forward, take someone forward in the process, and if we don't act on those within 5 seconds, our brain is designed to protect us. And so if we don't act within 5 seconds, our brain's going to say, well, let me give you an example with Doug Metcalf. When I was in sales, a very cantankerous guy, really liked to abuse salespeople, and he really enjoyed abusing me on a regular basis. He became one of our best customers at the company I was working for. But I left the conversation. I didn't have a clear next step. And so I was in the car, and I'm like, I need to call him. I was working with a mentor who was going to ask me this question at the time. So I'm like, I reach out to him. If I didn't know anything about the 5-second rule. At that point in time, I just thought, one time a day, I'm going to do what I fear most. And I'm not talking about jumping off a cliff. I'm talking about moving the needle forward, right? So I reached out to him, and we got the next appointment scheduled, and we moved the process forward, and he ended up becoming a customer. But so you have that thought, and it doesn't have to be making a call or anything else. It could be like starting a project. What's the hardest part of any project? Getting started, right? You want to write a blog? What's the hardest part about writing a blog? Getting started, right? So if you just think about that, just start counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then start, okay? So within your mindset, by the way, feelings follow action. And here's kind of a crazy example, okay? So I've been reading a bunch of books on health and whatnot and biohacking. And so I was reading with this guy, Wim Hof. and he has the world records for being under the ice pole in the water and whatnot. But there's supposed to be some health benefits to ice, cold shower, so I started taking ice baths, okay? Totally submerged. And so I would get in from the ice bath, and I'm like, I got this. Well, 5 minutes later, I got this. I'm thinking, 5-second rule. So 5, 4, 3, within a time I get to 3, I'm in. So it's personal, it's business, it's just, it will get things going. You know, because you don't need to be thinking about, oh, wow, I don't know, you know. And as I said before, our brain is designed to protect us. And so if we don't act and you stress about that, there's it's scientific, the word is a spotlight effect. And so next time you go to make a decision, whether it's making that call, reaching out to someone, that your brain is going to spotlight because you're getting stressed. Your brain's like, uh-oh, what's going on here? There's a spotlight effect. It's going to be harder and harder the more and longer you put it off. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, know your why. That mindset keeps you going. Fritz, a customer of mine, test automation guy, started a new business, and he was just scared reckless about reaching out to people, about talking and whatnot. By the way, you know, I have nothing against people cold calling, but I just don't think it's an efficient way to schedule appointments, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in my process, it's very easy, simple. It doesn't take a lot of getting out of your comfort zone. You do get out of your comfort zone, but it's not like a cold call. So he was scared to death. And so in developing his why, because he's an engineer type, and I work with a lot of those, you know, from software development and whatnot, and they hate sales because they think of it as selling as opposed to serving. And so once Fritz understood his why, he had the confidence to move his business forward. Now he's been like a year and a half, and he has a successful business, and he's actually brought on, I think he has like 3 employees now. So understand your why. That's going to help you develop the mindset. And so when you have people like Jim that come to you and say, you know, we really don't have a budget. You know, why are we talking? It's just going to click naturally because you don't want to waste their time. You don't want to waste your time. Okay? Behaviors. B. So TAB or TMB. Okay? Keeping tabs on our sales activities. Cold calling is a behavior. It's not a great strategy. Okay? I'm going to talk about our system here in a minute. And it has to do with the strategy. But there should be behaviors that you do each and every day that move the needle. And by the way, if there's a problem with a salesperson or you, it's the first place to look is the B, the behavior. If those behaviors are getting done, I don't care how good your mindset or techniques are, things ain't going to happen. It's like the old-fashioned water pump. Anybody use one of those? You know, on a farm that hasn't been used for a long time?
Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Zig Ziglar uses that example, and that's exactly it. And if you haven't used that pump, you know, first thing that comes up is what? A bunch of crappy water. It takes a long time to get there. But once you're pumping and the water's flowing, then it's going to come out. And you just have to, you know, continue to pump. See you, Kelly. Thanks. Appreciate it. Is it phantasma imagery? Yeah, okay, so you could Google that.
Are you from Trimble, Missouri?
Did you ask me about my yeah, he walked out there.
Did you leave your coat?
Okay, so, but behaviors, those things that move the needle, you have to do those on a consistent basis. Now, most sales coaches, sales training, sales systems you go through, they're going to focus on those top 3. They'll use different language for them, but technique, attitude, mindset, and behaviors, okay? What most people don't focus on, and this is essential, is S, which is your strategy, okay? So, strategy in going from, by the way, most of my life working for other people, I did lots of cold calls, tens of thousands of cold calls, and I hated it. But you do what you have to do to get results, okay? And so I had a boss, I remember in the 90s, my next job, old Xerox guy. Xerox back then was, he learned through their system, and it was 30 in-person cold calls every day. And so that's what I was expected to do. So I'm like, oh, what's the freaking point? Well, the freaking point was to schedule appointments. And so I figured out a strategy within that to do 10 appointments and 10 cold calls and get more appointments. And so I've always been thinking over the years, what can I do not to spam, not to come across pushy, but to move the process forward without having to spend as much time. So what I want to spend now is on the 5 pillars of LinkedIn. So this is our strategy, okay? I don't have my nice little thing up, but I'm going to take you through LinkedIn anyway, so it'll be fine. So it has to do with this, with my clients, and if we have more time at the end, I'll go into this in the sales mission statement, because the sales mission statement is the foundation, because that talks about what you do, who you are. You have to know and understand that, and most businesses just don't have clarity in what they do. From that, I take my clients through creating a value proposition. A value proposition is all about movement, metrics, and drivers, and we can talk about that. As a matter of fact, this is part of a value proposition right here, okay? But once you have this, the first thing you need to do is your profile. Your profile needs to be set up on LinkedIn, and this is B2C, B2B, okay? With a B2C or B2B business, your profile on LinkedIn is where you need to position yourself. You need to come across as an authority. And so the strategy that, typically you're reaching out cold in a lot. By the way, technology companies seem to have some of the most antiquated sales and marketing systems that I've worked with, and I work with a lot of them. So what I do is I reverse the entire process. Instead of starting out cold and developing rapport and going through the process, we build rapport, establish yourself as an authority before you have your first conversation. And that's what we're going to do on LinkedIn. So your profile is all about people coming here, and you position yourself, and they get what you do within 3 seconds. By the way, if they come here and within 3 seconds, they're going to make a judgment. I get what they do, I don't get what they do, and they're going to move on, or it's confusing. So here, and by the way, it is search engine optimized within LinkedIn. I'm not talking about getting your LinkedIn profile to rank on Google, okay? What I use the profile for is all about the authority. You'll hear me say that. I'll be very redundant on that, okay? Because that's a really key differentiator in the marketplace. So photo, where you're engaging in people. By the way, I'm updating my photo right here. That's why Kelly was here. Because I have a gal here who's folding her arms, which isn't the best, okay? So I want to update that. An updated photo here, and that's why she's here, because I'm updating that. And then you want to have a value proposition so people can understand what you do, and they can see if they're in your target market. Now, they don't say, hey, I'm in their target market, but they can see, you know what, Chaz or Bill or Sally or Sue, they could help me at some point in time. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to resonate. So right here, eliminating sales and marketing challenges, and so I'm starting broad for small B2B businesses. So they know that they're in my target market, and they can see I can solve their sales and marketing problems. And then from there, let's scroll down a little bit. By the way, you guys have access to internet, or you can go to your phone. If you just go to LinkedIn and pull up, I'll give you see if this. If you go to LinkedIn and just type in B2B in the search bar at the top, and tell me what you see. I haven't tried it on my phone. See if it works the same way. You guys do, anybody?
My first one says B2B Connect.
Okay.
That's one.
Yep, you see that? If you put marketing, you'll see that. If you put sales in there, you'll see
I
that.
put the B2.
Yeah, that should be B2B. Yeah,
Yeah.
the two. So if you put sales marketing, so my profile, search engine optimized, I'm number 1, 2, or 3 on there for sales, marketing, or B2B, okay? So there's people out there to get your profile optimized and they're pulling the leads. That's not what I'm all about, but you do want to have some organic traffic, and if you can make it rank within LinkedIn, because people do search things, people do put it, and so this is those tiny little things on LinkedIn that make a big difference, okay? So that's just one thing. And so I have keywords throughout, all right? So here we talked about by the way, the photo in the back, a lot of people are into branding images and whatnot. And on LinkedIn, they did a study. If you have a photo of you engaging with your customers or with people in general, it's something like 4 or 5% people are more likely to reach out to you. Yes?
So I teach classes and I saw the photographer here and I'm always wondering, do you need our approval to have a picture on LinkedIn or what are the, because I never know, is it okay to just take somebody's picture and put it on a social
Well, you signed a media release, right?
for this class, so but for, in general, do you need to do that?
We just asked them. I guess I'm not, who's the attorney here?
No, but I'm a retail store and I
Yeah.
always have to be careful of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would just have people sign off on it or something, or just ask them. What I do generally is, for my clients, is we're going to come in, they use it as an opportunity to get with their clients, and they say, is it okay if I take some photos? Okay?
They say, okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's generally what I do.
A lot of people like when they come, like if you're doing a class and you sign the release of like, if I get hurt, I'm not gonna sue you. In there, they'll have a clause
Okay.
that'll say, that you're okay, this for any marketing in that release.
So, yeah, I'm not getting into the details there, but
No, and you don't need to, but when I saw that photographer, I was like, oh, can I do this? Can I not do this?
yeah, I would just talk to your customers and get that in. But it is, they're more,
It's not worthy of
yeah, no, it's fine. So, but anyway, 4 to 5%, that may seem like a small little thing, but all these little percentages for all these little things you do, by the way, it could be on LinkedIn, it could be on Facebook, it could be on Twitter, it could be on Instagram. All these little things make a big difference, okay? So, background photo with you engaging, updated photo here, value proposition, okay, within the title, that's a partial value proposition, okay? And then as you scroll down, we go into the summary, all right? And so what I do here is it's broad, and then I drill down a little bit into the summary, okay? And so in the summary, I go into, we combine B2B sales and B2B marketing in one process. That's a little bit of a differentiator, because what I don't want to associate myself with is there's a lot of these LinkedIn gurus that are popping up like every day. And so I don't want to associate with them because they're, it's like, hey, LinkedIn's the hot social media platform now. And so I want to, jump on board. So I want to differentiate myself. And so then I go into, Stephanie talked about surveying 3,000 businesses. And so when I put, eliminate problems associated with empty sales pipeline, ineffective sales process, a sales cycle is too long, that came from my survey. Inadequate upselling and cross-selling opportunities, that all came from my survey. So I know from doing that, it resonates. And then I go a little bit more into the details of what we do, okay? And it's all about having a conversational LinkedIn page that's outcomes. Because people don't care if we've been in business for 30 years, for 2 years, for 5 years. They care about the outcomes we provide for them. And so we need to speak in outcomes because that's what resonates with people, okay? So as I scroll down here a little bit on the summary, by the way, this is the foundational pillar number 1, okay? And so you can also add links. I have a podcast here that people can watch. One of my clients sent me a video here saying her experience going through my program. And this is my LinkedIn group. LinkedIn group actually is number 4, and we're going to address that here in a minute, okay? From here, experience. By the way, so these search appearances here are 637 a week. That's how many search appearances I'm getting a week on LinkedIn, just because my profile is set up like that. A lot of people are somewhere between 2 and 50, okay? You can look at your own LinkedIn profile and see on your mobile device. You probably won't be able to see that, but if you go to your laptop, okay? The other part that you need to have within your profile, now content is pillar number 3, and I'm going to talk about getting your content viral on LinkedIn. But the article, so there's 2 types of content you can put. You can either be a post or an article, okay? A post, you simply go and you click here, and it could be a video uploaded. You have 1,300 characters for a post. In article, you're going to click on this, and this is where you have a background image, headline, and I haven't seen anybody reach the limit so far. So I don't know. By the way, remember I was talking about Fritz with the mindset? There he is.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please do. Anyway, you guys, I want this to be interactive. I don't want to just talk. So if you have any questions, go ahead. What?
So somebody told me that you should just have one article that is sort of like evergreen and keeps sort of your, shows your authority.
Right.
And then your posts are where you put other stuff and you keep it all fresh. How do you feel about that on changing your article up?
Yeah, it has to, because LinkedIn has it's either 60 or 90 day time for the content to be optimized. Now, the reason for the article, and I understand where they're coming, and I agree with that, is the article is an authority building piece, okay? And so with your article, and by the way, if you want to connect with me, connect with me on LinkedIn and just make sure you mention this, because I get tons and tons of connections, and probably about 90% I don't connect with. Just mention that, write a note. And so if you go to any of my articles and you like them, please like and share. So within an article, it's something long, and you can put videos in here. You can put all sorts of information in here, but the idea is people come in here and they say, okay, I get what Chaz does. He understands what he's doing, and so that's what the article is. It's an authority building piece on there, all right? By the way, the algorithms within articles, the algorithms within post are 2 different. Post, you can get a lot more views. Articles, you can't, because they changed that. Articles, it used to be that if they would send a certain percentage of your connections. Chaz has a new article. They don't do that anymore. And the views on an article are typically 70% lower. But the views are actually people clicking on it, where the views on your post are it appearing in people's feeds, okay?
Can I ask you one more question?
Yep, go ahead.
Sure. So your article, is that a good place to put like a really good blog like we were talking
Yes.
about?
You could take, yes.
Put them there also?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. And then on the experience, what I do in the experience is I just go into a little bit, by the way, here it is, the surveying over 3,000 businesses. And I go into a little bit more detail. I give some examples of outcomes, because it's outcome based. That's what people care about. So once you have this set up with keywords within your industry, then people are going to come here and they're going to see you. You're going to position yourself and get that. The other thing is key is to make sure you have a business page connected to this. If it's a gray space here, that's just screaming out this person that doesn't have a legitimate business. And so you got to connect a business page to there, okay? And then the other things, make sure you're having people endorse you for skills and endorse you too for recommendations. And you can just ask for a recommendation here, okay? So people come here, that's the foundation to the entire process. The second thing is you come through a targeting process, your profile is set up correctly, and this is why we're looking at the prospect, we're looking at the customer from their vantage point. And so remember we talked about lying to salespeople? And so in order to load their walls, we want to first and foremost see us as an authority. And you've probably heard the term, know, like, trust, and add that, see you as an authority. And as they come through this process, they naturally lower their walls, okay? Because as they come through this process, when they get to a certain point, the next natural step is to schedule a meeting with them, okay? So the target, how many people know about Sales Navigator? Okay, so Sales Navigator is a LinkedIn, it's a premium account. By the way, LinkedIn Premium without Sales Navigator is worthless in my eyes. If you're going to get a premium account, get Sales Navigator. The reason why Sales Navigator is so powerful is you can go through a process and you can identify within a geography, okay, geographic area, your target market with the decision maker within the, the role of the company, and then you can connect with them. And by the way, LinkedIn limits your connections if you don't have Sales Navigator, okay? When you target, and you can save these targeted searches, it would be equivalent, Info USA, they used to have an office here. People used to buy these lists, Well, you can do all of that right here within Sales Navigator. So having a list of people is just information. It's useful, but only if it's connected with the strategy in going through the process. So, and how active are people on LinkedIn? I just want to get a raise of hands. Say once a week,
Couple times a day.
a couple times a day, once a month, okay, once a year. Okay, we got you in there. Okay. So this strategy for B2C is the same, whether Instagram, Facebook, or whatnot. The algorithms are going to be a little bit different when we get into content. So on the messages, so you have pillar number 1, that's the foundational pillar, okay? That's the profile. Pillar number 2 is the messages. And so I asked the question if you've been on LinkedIn because a lot of people will, connect and start spamming you and start trying to sell you, right? And so you have to differentiate yourself. And so what we do is I take people through a targeting process. As they go through the targeting process, then you connect with people in your target market. So decision maker in your target market. You have your profile set up. You have your article, which reinforces who you are. So you're starting to see you as an authority. And as they come through a process, by the way, if you connect with someone, you have to have a message that's intriguing, okay? And so my message when I connect is I hope to connect and see how we might grow each other's business. I hope to connect and network. A lot of people say that and see how we might grow each other's business. It's a little intriguing, okay? What does that mean? And by the way, with total integrity, I say that because I connect, and then the first thing I do, this is what I call appreciation message, is I connect and I give them something of value. And so what on social media would be of value to people? Why are people on social media in the first place? Yes, Facebook, Instagram too. But as a business, you're on social media to get recognized, right? So hopefully, as a business, that's why you're on social media. If you're not, then we can talk afterwards. But so what I do is, great to connect. I appreciate connecting with you. Here's an idea to help you on LinkedIn. Let me know if you have any content, LinkedIn post or article you'd like me to share with my 18,000 plus followers, okay? So, and if you don't have a lot of followers, you can just say followers. So people take that, and it's a pattern interrupt. It's something different. It's like, oh, I've had people say, well, what do you charge for the service? I'm like, I don't charge anything. So it works in the law of reciprocity, okay? And so they're looking at you different. By the way, 25 to 30% of the people that after the appreciation message, my clients tell me that the people they connect with actually say thank you for the message. It's different, okay? And then through the process, 7 days later, we craft a customized message that has to do with the needs, and I use a survey, the needs within the business to find out, could you help me with the 20-second survey? What's your biggest sales and marketing challenge? A, B, C, D. They respond. So that is target market decision makers starting to see me, my clients as an authority. They told me about a problem they have. That's what I consider a qualified lead, okay? And so it's not about jumping on them, and you got to exhibit some patience, because yes, we want to grow out our target market, but we have to be patient in the process, because remember, from their perspective, they're starting to lower their walls, right? The prospect. But like that, the wrong written word or something like that, the walls will go right back up. Okay? So what I do is I'll drill down a little bit and just say something, appreciate your feedback, John. It's just say they said A, which is lack of a sales pipeline. I'm curious how you're trying to reach your target market now. 95% of people will not respond to that message, okay? Don't get hung up on that. Then I follow up. By the way, this is when I use Vetus Video. I talked about Vetus Video. And this increased in conversion rates from lead to appointment for me, for some of my clients up to 27%. And so the reason with Vetus Video is so powerful is when the video stops, it goes directly to your calendar or goes wherever. They don't have to click anything. So what I do is I respond to that message within probably 2-3 days, and I just simply say, I have an idea to help you, and I sent you a personal video message to, they have their email address, 90% of them if you're on LinkedIn, and I send a personal video message with the subject line or LinkedIn conversation. You can also view your video message here. So I put it in 2 places, within the message, within their email. And so they watch a 60-second video, sometimes a minute 20, based on the questions I take them through. And so basically it would be like, John, I appreciate you taking time to let me back up. John, great to be connected with you on LinkedIn. Thanks for answering my survey. And we have a system, process, and strategy to eliminate that problem. And then I tell them about outcomes they get, and then I simply say, I'd like to schedule a 20-minute appointment if you're interested so we can learn more about each other's business. By the way, this is not to pitch or sell you anything. This is to learn about each other's business. If I can help and you're interested, we can schedule another call. Sound good? The video will stop. My calendar will come up. Pick a time that works for you and look forward to talking with you soon, or hope to talk to you soon. So that's how most of the appointments are scheduled for me and my clients. So without making a single phone call, all right? So the first 2, now the content I talked about is getting your content viral. And anybody who's been on LinkedIn, is everybody doing good? Do we need to take a restroom break or anything like that? We're doing good? Okay. So the content on LinkedIn, if you haven't noticed, it's really difficult to get your content, get traction unless you're an influencer. So what we do is we hack the algorithms within LinkedIn, and you could do this, by the way, within your office. And so what we do, and our clients typically get an increase in views of anywhere from 500 to 1,500% on their content. So, by the way, the people that answer the survey, 7 to 11%, we have those numbers down, okay? And from there, that's where we schedule the appointments. But the other 90%, because we have people that are connecting with anywhere from 200 to 500 targeted connections each and every month, all right? But the other 90%, what about them? Well, they'll forget about you. You're on social media, they don't know you. And so that's why the content is so important, because you want to be in front of them. And so what we do is we take them through our process. We have a viral content group for my company to get the post in articles and increase in views 500 to 1,500%. 3 most important things with LinkedIn algorithms right now: likes, comments, and shares. When you have a concentration of people like, commenting, and sharing your content, it's going to boost it. When LinkedIn gets to a certain point, they actually have people that review their content, because if, by the way, I think it's like 2 or 3% of people actively put content on LinkedIn, and there's a bunch of crap, but there's some good stuff. And they have people on LinkedIn that actually review content when it gets to a certain stage, and they'll push it out. Perfect example, I had a message that on after Christmas that had like 6,000 views. 2 hours later, it had 19,000 views. Then went to 72,000 views a week later. Well, obviously, someone had reviewed that and pushed it out. So within the algorithms, likes, comments, and shares, what we do, and you could do with your business, or if you have a group of people, is now, it's got to be someone who actually knows you, who likes your content, and so it's not just clicking, hey, great post, okay? But when you have a concentrated period of time where people are like, commenting, and sharing, that boosts the algorithms, and that's why our clients get a 500 to 1,500% increase in views on their content. And so, as you mentioned about the articles I put out about every 3 months because the algorithms, they take away the algorithms after about 60, 90 days on content. And so that's why I update that. And I like to do it like I had one that was on there for, I think, a year last. And that was time for me to update it. That's why I put this on here. But the post, which you have 1,300 characters, it's about putting together something that's of value to them. And it's not about, does anybody know Gary Vee? People love him and hate him, okay? Vaynerchuk, okay? So it's not about, people get so stressed out about creating content. It's about, if you just document with what you do, I bet you have tons of conversation with customers. You had a struggle with an employee. You had a challenge within the culture of your company that you're running. And so just talk about that. Be transparent. The cool thing for small businesses, if you're being transparent with who you are and what you're doing and document the journey, you're going to get content that's going to get out there. And it's just documenting what you're doing. It's a good example is I have someone that deals with company cultures, and she does it from an Eastern science type of thing, and she does B2B and B2C. And so she's out on the ski slope, she's out and she's talking about how it's good to take time out, to relax, she gets into meditation and whatnot. And so she's getting a group of followers who like with what she has to say, and she can put the content with a 2-minute video and some written words, and she connects with people. Now, sometimes you can have some content that's a little controversial. So I was playing fetch with my dog, and so I just thought, cold calls are really ineffective. I mean, it's kind of like going back, people thought the earth was flat. So I just thought, here I am, I'm in the field with my dog. You can see my dog here. And so I put this post together, and this is a couple weeks ago. You can't see the views right now, so hold on a second. It's got about 14,000 views. Let's see, it's not showing the views now. But I definitely rubbed the cold call coaches, raw here. But you have to understand that people doing that and like they were saying some disparaging remarks, I just wanted to have a conversation with them. But the more that they did that, the more it boosted my post. And so, within 2 days, it went from, 50 to 3,000 to 7,000 to 10 to 12. But, and remember I was talking about the boss? So I'm documenting, and I modeled around Xerox. Way back then, I thought to myself, what the frickin' point? As a matter of fact, I said those exact words to you. Fast forward 20 years, cold call appointments. You don't have to do that. There's a better way. It's common sense. This is the 90s, not 2019. So that is an example, by the way, with white space, taking time to have and it doesn't have to say much, and then you can put a quick video to it, or you don't have to have a video, okay? This video, by the way, is like minute 42. And I find in my videos that are under 2 minutes, they usually do the best. And if you're uncomfortable being on video, just do something. And you don't get to say, what? You can say, this is my first video and I hated it. People are going to I'm serious. It's going to resonate with people because you know what? Most people are scared to death to be on video. And so you're transparent, you screw up, and in my videos, if you watch them, I laugh at myself a lot because I'll screw up. Now, obviously, if you totally screw up, then you have to redo it. But I laugh at myself, and it's become part of my video and part of my branding as people watch that, okay? So targeting, foundational pillar is your profile, the messaging, and then content. The content will reinforce who you are with the people and, know, and trust. And so you're building on a platform. My clients do anywhere from increase an additional 2,000 to 7,000 additional targeted connections. That's their decision maker within their target market each and every year. Okay? And so what you're doing is you're building a community of people who lower their walls. They know you, like you, trust you, and see you as an authority. And so if they don't tell you about a problem they have when they come through that, they see your content. And by the way, I probably have about 4 or 5 people a month that will reach out. I've been seeing your content. By the way, there'll be a lot of people in the background that don't interact with you that are watching it in the background. That's why it needs to be consistent. I do twice a week. I really should do more, but I do twice a week, and I'm consistent on the same days, and I also, share other people's content, okay? And when people are interacting with you on that, then you can interact with them. The other thing is the hashtags. LinkedIn made a change several months back, and so people have set up within their profile certain hashtags that will show up, that will be in their feed, okay? So the next thing is LinkedIn groups. How many people are in a LinkedIn group? How many people spend time in a LinkedIn group? Okay, and that's exactly right, because LinkedIn groups traditionally have been people just posting promotional content time and time again. No one's engaging. And so this is a short, medium, and long-range strategy. And the LinkedIn group is about creating a community. Now, LinkedIn did some things that decimated the groups. The notification system stunk. I mean, Facebook was just night and day difference. But they've made some good changes and through the process. So now I have 2,085 members. And it's a long-term play. A lot of my clients, I tell them, do this. In our process, it's going to grow anywhere from 3 to 7 a day. And so you do the math, up to a year, you're going to have over 1,000 members. Typically, it takes about 6 months to really get people engaging, but there's people in the background that are seeing your content. Before I had my VA, Jess managed my group. I did it all by myself. It took me about a month and a half. But people come in and they're engaging. This is Jess, by the way, speaking of her. And so when you're small, people come in, I give them a welcome message. You could send that to them. And I set expectations for the group. I want you to introduce yourself, discuss problems, challenges you have. And so 10% of the people that come in here are self-qualifying themselves. They'll tell me about a problem. There's a survey on here. You don't have a pinned post right now on LinkedIn. They took that away. But you could recommend a post, which is a key strategy. They just brought this, well, they didn't bring it back. They just did this about 2 weeks ago. So let me slow down. I give them a welcome message. You want to kill them with kindness. You really want to serve them. And then they get the welcome message, and then Jess will come here about 2 days later, and she'll tag several people in here, usually get 6 or 7, and then she'll reiterate what I said in her own words, and then welcome them. So they get a welcome message, they get this message, and then I always have people that are commenting on here, and so they do feel welcome. And so it's a different environment. And so, here's Scott, he's introducing himself. Another one, that's me. Another guy introducing himself. And so when people are coming in, and then by the way, there's that thing. People come in here, and again, 10% of the people that come in here are self-qualifying themselves. And if you ever kept people in your group, they're spamming or whatnot, I give them a warning and then I kick them out, okay? And that happens, but as you're dealing with your connections, you're actually inviting people in that are within your target market. So these are highly targeted people in your group because they're coming here. My group is Mastery of Selling B2B for the Small Business. Within the title, it explains what the group is about, okay? And so that's what a lot of people will come in short term, up front, they'll engage, and then they'll disappear. So the targeted or the recommended post, which they just brought back here, is if you click on these 3 things here, you see this recommend this post? So what happens here is you click this post, and then all the members are going to be notified, okay? Unless they opted out. By the way, the way LinkedIn is set up, they're already opted in to receive the recommendation. And so you can have content that goes to a landing page, that goes somewhere else. And so using this, I just started it last week because they just implemented this. I picked up 2 appointments from a single post, okay? All right, 9:50, is that the wrap-up time? Okay, so we're working our way through the process. that's that. And then the last thing is notifications. All right. Now on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn tells you when people's birthdays, anniversaries, job change, and promotions are. And what, sorry, I'm pausing. I'm just thinking about just wrapping this up nicely for you all. This is a really key differentiator. And just by using the birthday message, okay? By the way, it's meaningless if you just click, say happy birthday, and click. That's meaningless. So check this out. So what I do is, I actually have my son do this for me. He works for me part-time. Is, Marla, awesome to see it's your birthday. Hope it was an amazing day. What's new and challenging in your business? Okay? And so I've had 2 clients sign up on a single day, and I've had other clients get their clients from the birthday message. And what happens here is they're coming through the process. It's not because of the birthday message. It's because they see your profile, they see your content. Some may be in your LinkedIn group, some may not. On the day that I signed up 2 clients from the birthday message, they scheduled from the birthday message, and they signed up on the same day. As they saw the birthday message, they wanted to reach out to me, all along, because they saw my content, they saw my messages. One was in my LinkedIn group, one was not in my LinkedIn group. But who wants to reach out to a sales and marketing guy? Probably think I'm going to try to sell them something, right? They didn't realize I was here to serve them, right? So they got the birthday message that broke the ice, and they said, yeah, I'm really having some struggles with this. And so we scheduled an appointment. So this is so essential with the pillar number 5. And this is something you can do right now. All these things you can do right now is just start reaching out to people. It doesn't take you much time. And, you can have someone, an assistant, an admin, a VA do this for you. But just by doing this, I usually pick up 3 to 4 appointments a month. As a matter of fact, I had went through like 2 months. There's no appointments from the birthday message. I'm like, Ty, are you sending? He goes, well, if it's not their exact birthday, because he does it 3 days a week, I'm like, Tyler, he's 20, he'll be 22, and he knows a lot, thinks he knows a lot more than he does sometimes. And I said, just do it. Just say happy belated birthday, okay, if that's going to make a difference. And so I showed him the results after he started doing that for a month. I go, look, we have 4 appointments this month for the last 30 days. So they come through the process. The prospect is lowering their wall. And as they lower their wall, they're seeing you as an authority. It's, I shouldn't say simple because it's work. Well, it's a lot more simple of a process to have that first conversation with them, know, like, and trust you, seeing you as an authority as opposed to cold calling them. Okay, any questions on that? And so what I want to wrap up with is this. I'll tell you a quick story about another mentor of mine. Because we are talking about the customer. And so 950 hard stop?
Yeah, well, 50, 55, whatever.
Okay, 55. Okay, so if you need, I might go about a few minutes over because I just want to give you this because we're talking about the prospect, where they are, they have their walls up, right? And so now we're talking about getting into the customer. And so my other mentor is my business mentor, my friend, my mom, okay? And so tell you a quick story to give you an understanding of what I learned growing up. And so my mom went through, starting to get choked up talking about this. So my mom, she went through a divorce, and I have 2 brothers. My dad wasn't helpful to us financially, and so my mom was an art teacher. Back then she made about $5,000, $6,000 a year. Not a good income to raise 3 boys without any financial help. And so my mom was bound and determined, and so she went into real estate, okay? So she went into real estate, and, you don't make a sale, you're not going to make any money. And back then, there's a lot into, closing. There wasn't the pre-approval there was today. And so, long story short, she got into real estate, You know, I remember there were nights I heard at her door. My mom would never, ever, ever cry in front of anyone. She had a very disposition that she would not show emotion in front of people. But I could hear her, and I was telling it could get to her. And I was like 11 years old at the time. But she started her business. She became one of the top producers in the company. Then she started her own business, Jacqueline Horn Realty, and became very successful. And so I remember my mom had cancer, going to her house just to check on her. We did hospice, and she was hunched over the counter. She had an ice cream sandwich melted in her hand. That's all she ate her last 2 months alive. And so I was like, Mom. And she had lung cancer. And so she was still alive, and all she could say was, water. I couldn't get her to drink any water. And she was, you know, on a lot of drugs. So I thought it was the drugs that were affecting her. And I got her in a chair, and I'm like, Mom, let me just get you to bed. So I got her up, but she couldn't walk. And so I'm like, Mom, let me carry you. And her last word to me before she died was, no. So it's like, dang it, if I'm going to die, I'm going to walk to my own deathbed. Okay, so she did. I was able to get her, and then she died later that night. But I tell you that story because she was tenacious, and that's how she lived her life. But the other thing, she had a like 99.999999 repeat rate with clients that she would sell houses to or list. And the reason being, now we're moving into the customer. The reason being, I remember, and it's like she ran her business out of a house, and so I learned how to answer the phone. I listened to her talk to people. Sometimes I would go on showings, and they did those tours back then on Tuesdays of the new houses that were listed. And you know, during the people's special events, you know, we're talking about notifications and whatnot, birthdays, she would pass out bottles of wine, different things. And so if I go home to this day, and she died back in 2000, October 17th, this day people say, your mom was amazing. And she just had such great rapport with people, and they just loved to work with her because she was always doing something for them. She was always serving them. And so what I want you to think about, with your customers, and by the way, if you go into and Stephanie sent this article out, think about that with my mom serving people, because 79% of your customers are not engaged by you. 79%, okay? What does that mean? The 21% that are engaged by the other people, now I'm sure that's none of anyone in here, right? Okay? But the 21% that do engage their customers, their sales are 50% higher, okay? So how do you engage your customers? This is something I did, and we're going to be fine wrapping this up in 5 minutes. So a simple way to engage your customers in a way that's, and this is B2C, B2B, is I created, now I'm going to make this very simple for you because this is a step before, but with one company we created a scorecard. If you have a way of scoring your performance, now it needs to be accurate. With this company, it was a distribution company. They did on-time shipping, they did back orders, all sorts of different things, and then also different things that happened that they did, because if a customer doesn't know you did something, it doesn't help at all. So they used this to review with people. And by the way, with the scorecard, it gave them a reason to review it with people. And they were meeting with buyers and material managers and purchasing managers. They used this to leverage the conversation to bring other people in, C-level people into the conversation who didn't even know what this company was. And they reviewed the scorecard with this information. By the way, you do this and you better be prepared to get the bad stuff. Because we went in with them, I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. They would review this with them. It was bad, because if you don't address, people are so forgiving. Everyone screws up. But if you don't know you're screwing up, or if you screw up and you don't do anything and you just do it by phone, okay, sorry about that, and I talked to the president, big deal. So, the real quick story. So, as they were going through this process, they were reviewing something, And it was a good scorecard, and they said, well, it looks like we have an A, but what are your thoughts? And this was Siemens. They closed down. It used to be their wastewater manufacturing thing over here in Edwardsville, I think it was. They said no, and they had the COO and VP of operations and some other people. I said, no, you guys screwed up on this, and because of this, we didn't make a shipment, and it cost us this. And it's like, oh, crap, okay? But with that information, they went back, and they changed things in their process. They had a corrective action. They had Siemens out to their facility, and they had a lunch, and they went through their corrective action. Because of that, 3 months later, they picked up like $250,000 in monthly recurring revenue from a project they had for the next 8 months because they spent the time. Now, scorecard and all this, it's in depth. What you can do is simply this, is schedule an appointment with your clients, with your customers, and say, we're looking for ways to improve our service to you, and I'm hoping to sit down, have an open discussion, and get some feedback. It's best in person. You could do this over the phone. It just kills me because everyone's into this online. Do this, click, 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 click. You gotta talk with them. You got to communicate with your customers. It takes more time, but if you look at time management, we talked about the important, not urgent before. Stephanie's talking about. This is important and not urgent. You don't want it to be urgent and important, right? So, so you go there and you just simply say, I want to have, and you use it to leverage to get other people who you may not have talked about or to in the company into the conversation, and you have what are the 3 main things you do? What are important? You can have an overall question. So you just say, I want you to be totally open with me. The good, bad, and the ugly. I want you to tell me between 1 to 5, how are we in servicing you overall? And if they give a 4, why not a 4.5? Why not a 5? Let them say, and if they give you a 4, can you give an example of why you're scoring me a 4? Let them, there's psychologically them telling you why you're doing a great job is very powerful, okay? If it's poor, you want to ask them that too. And you can ask them specifics about questions. You gave a 4, can you give an example of that? The more you get them engaged in the conversation, the better. And so you go through this process and then you simply ask them, is there any reason that you wouldn't send additional business our way? You've gone through the process. They've told you about how great you are. Obviously, if they're terrible, you need to give a corrective action. And so by doing this with this company, they were doing $10 million a year. They increased their sales just with their current customers, $3.9 million in 12 months. Just by doing that. And their customers they thought were loyal were now rock solid loyal. And it naturally led to upsells and cross-sells. And now the conversation they're having with their customers in many occasions, consistently, I shouldn't say many, but consistently, is people are reaching out to them and saying, can you help me with this? You know you have a good relationship with your customer if they're asking you to do things because they have that trust. So you got the prospect journey, and then there's something you could use with your customers. As you implement this, the most important thing is what I say to my clients all the time in social media is go rock this day. Yep. Thank you.
One quick question, if
Yep.
I may.
Any questions?
You mentioned between a post and an article on LinkedIn, which shows in a feed?
They both show in the feed, but the algorithms within a post, you're not going to have as many people. The one thing that I said, maybe this is the confusing, you get your views on an article when they actually click on the post. The post, on the article. On the post, it's how many times it appears in people's feeds. So they may look at it in the feed, because in a feed on an article, you have to click it to read it. On a post, you can read the first portion of it, so it may appear in people's feeds, but they may not have read the whole thing. Yes?
Could you write an article and then promote it on a post?
You could do that. LinkedIn still does with the algorithm. By the way, the other thing, LinkedIn, like any social media, they love native content. I'm experimenting with this. I was on a podcast a while back, and I had the link to YouTube that was a replay of the podcast, and it just like suppressed it big time. So native content, meaning you created the content on LinkedIn, and that's going to do much better than anything else that takes them off a link. Because they want you on LinkedIn. They don't want you off LinkedIn. Any other questions?
Can you do the set of pillars again?
Yeah, so it's your profile, the messaging, content. I almost forgot the fourth one. LinkedIn group, and then notifications. And notifications, I'm not talking about people commenting on I'm talking about job change, promotions, birthdays, and anniversaries. And again, don't use the click for the anniversary, congrats. It drives me crazy because I have over 18,000 followers and I get like 700 messages. It's like, congrats on the anniversary, whatever the message is. I hate it. You know, the first objective in social media, and when I take people, is engagement. So I put together a video and I responded all those, and it was kind of fun, but it just clogs up people's messages. Make it meaningful, okay? And by the way, I use a Google Doc and I have all these messages, and so it's special to them, but I use it repetitively, so it's just copy and paste. If you want to write it out and do that, that's great. I just choose not to, and it's still meaningful to them. Yes?
If you're new to all of this, is there a book or a resource or, I mean, I'm talking like a total newbie.
Yep. And what's your business again?
I own a chocolate shop. We make chocolate and I have a retail store. And so I've gone and I've made connections, so I've got that going. But I'm so far from putting videos. So what is the resource that I need to get there?
The simple answer is, everything is out there right now. You know, my LinkedIn system, it took hundreds and hundreds of hours, year after year after year, over 6 years to develop it. It would. So I have a program to take people through, but it focuses B2B. And so it's just clarity comes through execution, not thought. It's just getting started. And the more active you are, you could do. And you could just YouTube, how can I be successful on, boop, and you can watch a 5-minute video and you get an idea. You can go another, and you watch videos like, I saw a single mom who didn't have any money. She watched YouTube videos and she built a house for her and her daughters. The information is there. It's just being consistent and filling your mind with that information, and then you're just executing.
I guess I think when I hear that, I have very limited hours, so what's the best resource for me to use, as opposed to just randomly watching YouTube videos? Is there a good resource or class?
So is it for B2C,
Mm-hmm.
for your chocolate shop? That was a good question. As far as just one source to take you through.
Or B2B, I do both. I don't have unlimited time to learn.
Tell you what, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And just make sure you say, Sherry, that, okay,
Yeah.
we talked.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Maybe one. Yeah.
well, I just so your picture is accurate, so I can remember you is on LinkedIn, and you have a picture, and then we can discuss it further. By the way, if anyone has any questions on that, feel free to reach out and we can schedule a time to talk and go into more depth.